Hi, there are a variety of different data sources that we can use. In my GIS 3435 and 3010 classes, even my graduate classes, I provide you with a lot of the data that you'll need in order to do your projects. Now when you create your own project, you go out in the workforce, a lot of GIS data creation and project management is figuring out where we can get data. The internet is a great source since us as taxpayers have already paid for a lot of these data. One good place that I'm going to talk about in this tutorial is North Carolina OneMap. We can download the actual shapefiles from the geospatial portal, or we can connect to a service which has imagery. And as you can imagine, imagery is very large and very difficult to download and upkeep. So we connect to a server at this NC OneMap headquarters that we can do this. I'm going to give you a short tutorial on how we can do this. Now the North Carolina OneMap is located at www.nconemap.com. And when you get to it, you're going to see a page like this. And this is run by the North Carolina Geographic Information Coordinating Council. And they maintain all the geospatial standards and GIS data for the state of North Carolina. In my Blackboard pages, I typically put external links, and I send links to different pages for, say, New Jersey or New York or New Mexico or other states that maintain GIS data at the state level. There may be counties, such as Guilford County or Durham County, that maintain their own GIS database in which you can download these. But I'll show these for North Carolina OneMap. And when you get to here, it tells us that North Carolina NC OneMap is a public service providing comprehensive discovery and access to North Carolina's geospatial data sources. It's basically the state's clearinghouse for geospatial information, relies on data sharing and partnership. So all 100 counties, they contribute to this, as well as other agencies. And when I click on the geospatial portal, you can see what I have here. I'm going to have a little map right here, and it has a keyword search query that I can type in any type of keyword that I want to look at here. Okay. So you can see the most recently added or updated resources were the latest imagery service, and we're going to look at that imagery service. Shellfish growing areas from March 2014. That looks pretty interesting. County boundaries. AADT volume group segments is the average annual daily traffic counts. Or I can click on find a resource here. And what I'm going to do here, I might type in fire stations. And I can click on search. And you can see I've got a data layer for fire stations. I've got gas stations, EMS sites. Because I'm just going to download this and put this into my map and try to integrate it with other services that they have other online services. And I'm going to click on fire stations, and it tells me what exactly fire stations represents. Fire stations, any location where firefighters are stationed or based out of, where equipment that such personnel use in carrying out their jobs is stored for ready use. So it's pretty interesting. We can look at the details, the XML data, we can zoom to it because we can see this map here that shows the spatial extent of the data that we're looking at here. This is what we call our bounding box. I have one for EMS sites or gas stations. And I can click on download and open. And I'm just going to download this right here, and you can see in the bottom left right here, okay, it tells me it's at ftp1map.com outgoing vector, since this is vector data, and this is the name of the zip file that we have. And I can click on this, and I'm going to just click on save as, and it's going to save it as a shapefile. And I'm going to just save this in my C. And I'm going to save it in my temp folder. And then you can see that it's downloading here. And open it up right here. And I can click on extract. And this is a shapefile, so you can see the text documents, the DBF, the PRJ files, all of these different files that go into it. I believe this would be, if we look at this text file here, this would be the metadata that represents all of the data that it has. So we've got here, I'm going to do extract, and I'm going to extract it to right here. And there's just going to be a folder called FRST. And it is right here, and you can see all of the data underneath it here. So now when I add it to my GIS, I'm going to click my black plus sign here. I'm going to navigate to, I'm going to navigate to my, first of all, connect to my C drive. See? I'll just stick that at the base there. temp. I'm going to look for the folder that I extracted it to, and you can see the points right here that it represents. So these are just going to be all of the fire stations in the state of North Carolina. And here they are. And you can see what we're looking at right here. So you can see the spatial distribution of these fire stations, and this is represented as a shapefile. So when I look at the properties will be a little bit different than compared to a service. Here's my source. It tells me this is NAD State Plane 1983 Lambert Conformal Conic, using meters as my base unit. Okay, so this is a little bit different than our state plane or decimal degrees. Now the other thing that we have to our disposal is, when I look at North Carolina one map, we can connect to services. When we went back to the home here, it talked about imagery. It had imagery here. Now I'm going to click on the North Carolina One Map blog, and this talks about all of the new ortho imagery that's available. It has new elevation data that's available that we can also get from the North Carolina Department of Transportation. But we have new North Carolina One Map services locations have been retired. And I'm going to read more here because I can connect to a service right here. And you can see right here, image services are now available in their own folder. Okay? And this talks about services. So I can see services.northcarolina.com/arcgis/res/services. I'm going to highlight it, and then I'm going to copy this right here. And when I open this up in ArcGIS, I'm going to go to my ARC catalog because I don't want to download all of these data. It would be pretty difficult for me to download everything that I want. Perhaps I can connect to it using a service. Now when I open up my catalog, you can see I've got my folder connections here, my ArcGIS. I connected to my C drive before. I've got some toolboxes. I've got database servers, and I've got database connections, and I've got my GIS servers. And this is what we call the GIS server. So I'm going to double click on this, and I'm going to connect to the server over at North Carolina One Map that is hosting all of these data. And we can do the same thing here. We can publish our services as long as we have a way for people to connect to it. So what do I want to do? I want to use GIS services, and it's going to ask me for the URL. So all I'm going to do is just paste what I had in there before, services.nc1map.com/arcgis, rest, and services. You're going to see increasingly a number of more and more data providers are going to be providing this instead of shape files for us to download. I'm going to click finish. And you can see now under my GIS services, you can see ArcGIS on services. I've connected to the North Carolina One Map services. So you can see I've got animals, I've got boundaries, I've got census data. So I can drag this like we do with shapefiles. I can drag this service over, and you can see what it looks like here. And these are my different boundaries. If I highlight this here, I've got land cover, location, political, recreation, geologic. We're going to look at the imagery a little bit here in a second, if I can get to it. It's thinking. Okay, here it is. So you can see here my county boundaries. I'm going to click the, but you can see my county boundaries and my municipal boundaries overlaid on top of my fire stations. As you can imagine, it's a little bit slower to run because, well, these data are sitting over in Raleigh on the GIS server. So these fire stations are sitting right on my desktop here, on my computer. This is connected over somewhere else. And you can see what it has here. You can see the source of it. And the properties are a little bit different. It doesn't allow me to do certain things. And it has a description of these too. Under my catalog, I can add lots of different things here. Okay, political, recreation. And I think we can go through and query these also. Under imagery, I can click on the imagery. And we can look at DOQs from 1993, 1998. This is the latest imagery for this particular area right here. So if I were to zoom in to these areas of these right here, I can drop and drag my latest imagery over. It asks me about coordinate systems because this is projected in WGS. Let's see what we have here. So now I've superimposed this imagery right on top. I can change my fire stations color. Change my fire stations right here. Make it a little bit bigger. And now you can see these fire stations that I have locally right on top of my imagery and my counties and other administrative boundaries sitting on a server. And when you can see when we add these are going to be part of my services right here. There are a number of different places. National Atlas is another place that has ArcGIS services that you can connect to. So there are really good ways through North Carolina OneMap to get GIS data, and it's dependent upon you and the services. This is a lot easier for us to download. So take advantage of all the online data sources. In Blackboard, I have links to external links, copies of external links that have different GIS data websites that have at the state or municipality level or agency level, like Department of Fish and Wildlife, as well as places that will provide links. So all you need to do is just type in the credentials to add yourself right here. These credentials right here. Maybe there's a password, a username and a password that you might need to access these services, and you can get something that looks like this.